of July and the summer continues to shine on. Thank you for checking out the Sportsline Podcast on the CHCH and Parrot Media platform. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Folks, remember to tell your pals, share your favorite conversations, shorts, and keep liking and subscribing, hitting that button because you will always get the latest and the greatest. Today we venture outside the normal of football, hockey, basketball, baseball, and we dig into something that is very unique. The sport is men's gymnastics. Meet Burlington's Jameel Ali, who refined his athletics and skills from the Burlington BGs to the University of Washington, where he was a multiple All-American. Currently, this Canadian is competing on the world stage, but as he seeks his Olympic dreams, he will not be wearing the red and white. For clarification, let's bring in Jameel from Newmarket. Thank you so much for joining us on the Sportsline Podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about my sport and my heritage as well.
And this is what's so exciting because it's just so incredibly different. And as I said off the top to set many of us earlier, you're going to teach all of us a little something about your sport. So we look forward to digging in. First of all, let's start off about growing up in Burlington. And we talk about you making that choice. When you were a young lad, was this your sport of choice, or were there other things that interested you?
There was a few other sports that I did, but gymnastics quickly became the main thing that I wanted to do. My home club back in Burlington, it's since been closed now, but it was a great club. It was a great opportunity, and I had some great coaching, and I took to the sport pretty early on. The story is pretty similar to most gymnasts. Had a lot of energy as a young kid, and the gym was a great way to get it out. I did take up a little more sports like soccer and karate at earlier stages of my life, but gymnastics is the one that stuck. And I had a really great team around me at the time, and it just made sense to continue with the sport.
At that time, what was the inspiration? And I only say that because you turn on the TV and if you're watching sports, unless it's Commonwealth Games or unless it's the Olympics, maybe even the Pan Am Games, you're not seeing gymnastics on the regular. So what was the inspiration?
No, it is a very niche sport. It's not as common in North America as opposed to other parts of the world, and it's just not that common a sport in general. So inspiration had to come a lot from, like you said, seeing competitions online, Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games. It's a huge area of inspiration for, I think, most gymnasts. But I was also very lucky at the time. I got to train with some to the top athletes in Canada at my club, as well as an athlete that represented Trinidad and Tobago for the first time, William Albert, that was actually at my home club in Burlington at the time. So that was a huge source of motivation for me back then. I might not have known it back then, being so young, but now looking back, it's incredible that we had the same path and upbringing into the opportunities I have now.
You talk about the Burlington BGs, and when you walk in the gym, I mean, this is where you're going to teach us a little bit. I mean, gymnastics is actually a very broad word, I guess, for your sport, because there are so many different, and you can tell me, disciplines, athletic, like what are the differences between pommel horse, ring? Like, can you tell us what the different, I guess, disciplines are?
Yeah, not a problem. So a big misconception is there's men's gymnastics and women's gymnastics. Women's gymnastics is a lot more popular than men's for sure. It's much more of a mainstream sport, but these sports are two entirely separate things altogether. Men's and women's, although they share some similarities with events, they are completely different. For example, men's gymnastics has 6 events, being the floor exercise, pommel horse, still rings, vault, parallel bars, and horizontal bar or high bar. Whereas on women's, we only share the floor and vault, and they have the uneven bars and the beam. Men's gymnastics is comprised of, like I said, 6 different events, and each one is very unique in what it asks of you. Like for an event like the rings, it's very upper body based, where typically the people that excel on this event are heavily upper body focused, maybe a little stocky, shorter in size, whereas an event like the pommel horse, almost a polar opposite, where you need long arms. You want a more slender body because it requires a lot more flexibility. And then you have an event like the horizontal bar, where it's an event for like adrenaline junkies. They want the high flying releases. They want to see yourself succeeding under a lot of pressure. It takes a lot of pressure to do different events and different like scales on each event. So each single event offers a unique like asking of you as an athlete.
Can we go to the high bars, or I guess what I would call the high bars? And again, you can clarify this for us. Every time I see this sport, and even just looking at you competing, I'm scared. Like, I have no idea how you do this. Like, when you're up there, what's the feeling like? And of course, I'll ask you the obvious. Have you taken a tumble from however high that is?
Yeah, like high bar specifically is an event like no other feeling compares to it. Like flying over the bar, releasing and catching is something that you cannot find in any other aspect of the sport, and I think any sport. There's definitely been more falls than success stories, especially on this event. It takes a lot of focus and a lot of precision to complete successfully, especially with release and catch elements. And I've definitely had my share of falls, but I think that's one of the main reasons what makes this event so special is that the margin for error is so slim. You can be off by a couple millimeters and then you're off the bar and your routine is essentially over. So it takes a lot of precision and a lot of go for it mentality.
I'll ask you another dumb question. Don't you get dizzy? Like,
at this point, no, not anymore. But like, I'm also a coach, and as I'm coaching some of these younger athletes, I hear them say, "Oh my goodness, I'm dizzy now after like a 2 or 3 giants, which is just swinging all around the bar." And at this point, no, I'm not. But I can definitely see how, as you're learning, and I'm sure when I was learning, I got dizzy as well. But not anymore. At this point, we're pretty much used to it.
it's just unbelievable to watch your athletic abilities and what you do and how you make it look so incredibly easy. It blows me away. You know, so you're in the sort of a teenage parts of your years. You're attending Corpus Christi High School, secondary school in Burlington, and there's an opportunity to go to the University of Washington. First of all, that's a clear across to the other side of the country of North America. What led to that decision of becoming a Husky?
So to go to the university, to go to the Washington men's gymnastics team was the pinnacle of a series of events. So as I was getting into my later years of high school, grade 11 and 12, I knew I wanted to continue with the sport. That was never a debate. I definitely felt like I had more to offer and I wanted to take it further because I loved it and I still do. I explored NCAA gymnastics quite extensively and reached out to a lot of different programs, collegiate gymnastics, the whole umbrella. I received responses for a couple schools. I went on a few trips, which I am very grateful for. And then at the end, I went on a trip to Washington too. And the Washington team was incredible. They welcomed me very, very well with open arms. And the opportunity there was just a little too good to pass up. So I signed my national letter of intent in March and headed out there the following year, a few months later in August. And although it was a super far move across the country, I feel like at the time it was something that I needed to do. Up until that point, I was living at home, living in Burlington my whole life. And this was a really good chance for me to kind of, for lack of a better term, spread my wings and get out of what my normal routine was and just be immersed in a whole different culture, a whole different environment, and a whole different country too.
It really must have been, and I give you so much applause for that. Very mature decision for what you did there, because even if you did go away, I mean, there's one thing to go to, I don't know, Laurier, or even go, I'll leave the province, and maybe go to somewhere in Quebec or even Laval or whatever. But I mean, to make that move to the University of Washington was unbelievable. And the best part about it is that you have success there. And again, being a Husky, unbelievable. You and your team, it seemed like your 3 years there were very, very profitable to you in terms of your successes.
Yeah, no, it was an incredible time. We're lucky that we had some good showings at nationals for every single time that I was there. There was a little bit of a blanket of the COVID-19 pandemic as I was there because my freshman year was essentially cut in half with the lockdown starting pretty much right in the middle of our season. That was a huge, unexpected just event for everybody across the country. Our season was canceled. We lost one of our we lost the opportunity to even go to one of our national championships because it was canceled. But despite this huge, unexpected event, I really think that created a unique experience that I will always remember. Like I said, it's a very unique collegiate athletic experience. We made the most of it. Even coming back with all the Zoom trainings we did, in the gym for a reduced amount of hours was a huge part of my life that I don't think I'll ever forget. And I think it really shaped me into the gymnast I am today.
What was it like competing at the NCAA level?
So the Washington men's gymnastics team is part of the GymAct division. So a little different than NCAA, but it is still an intercollegiate level. Very similar. We compete against NCAA teams. We're just in the GymAct division of college athletics. And that was like, there's nothing like competing for a team. You have everybody screaming and everybody essentially going crazy for you on the event. Your team is completely behind you, and really everything else gets drowned out. You find this extra level of strength that when the lights are brighter, you get better. And when people are screaming for you, like you have fans in the crowd, you're representing university, it is something that you really can't put into words.
You can tell me if it's at this point of your career where you maybe make one of the bigger decisions of your career, maybe even your life. Was the inspiration to become the first to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the Olympic Games? One would think that you would try to make the Canadian team, but something about competing for Trinidad and Tobago on behalf of, I'm going to presume, your parents, was that the call?
Yeah, it really was. Like I'm very big on my heritage. I'm very prideful of where I come from, and this opportunity came as I'm getting older, as I was going towards the later years of my time at Washington. And similar to my time in high school, I knew that I wanted to continue with the sport. I knew that I had more to offer, and I still had a really big love for it. So the opportunity to represent Trinidad came from my dad. We started the process. Actually, it started during the pandemic, during COVID, when pretty much a lot of all we had to do was think. We had a lot of time. We didn't really know what the future was going to look like. So we just had time to think and ponder how the rest of our careers are going to go. During that time, we thought, let's try and explore this opportunity. At the time, there was nobody competing for Trinidad, and we saw it as a huge opportunity to let's create something amazing with this opportunity. Let's see if we can get my passport, start the process now where we have some time. The state of the world is a little unknown, so let's go to the embassy, let's start this whole process now. And then when the pandemic lifts and the restrictions lift and international competitions come back, I'd be in a good standing to go out there and show what I'm capable of.
And what was that process like? I mean, obviously there is channels that you have to go through, and I'm just looking at the broad of this because I guess the easy question would be, well, why take someone from abroad? What made them say, okay, Jameel Ali is going to compete for us? You're right. There was a lot of hurdles to get through. It was a lot of back and forth with Trinidad government officials, getting in touch with the sports federation there. And similar to any national team, you have to go to their national championships. Now, because this time when I was trying to make the team, there was COVID-19 pandemic all over the world, I was not able to even travel to Trinidad, let alone, I don't even think they had a national championships. So sending constant videos was something that I never stopped doing. Many videos to the sporting federation, the secretaries, and then from the citizenship side was going to the embassy in Canada, taking passport photos, switching or getting dual citizenship for both Canada and Trinidad. And then I believe taking someone from abroad helped because at the time, Trinidad was under lockdown for just about 3 years, from 2020 to about 2023. So it was very difficult for any aspiring gymnasts in the country to even continue to train under these circumstances. So gymnastics in Trinidad, especially on the men's side, was very small. During that time, there wasn't many representation at all. So I saw it as a huge opportunity. Let's see if I can bolster some engagement. Although I'm not in the country at the moment, I want to bolster some engagement to see if we can get the sport to grow in Trinidad. So you're a landmark. Like, you are the baby. I think this has got to be a lot of fun for you, because many may be following in your tracks. Because as I understand, you would be the first male, but there was actually been a woman that's competed for Trinidad in terms of gymnastics at the Olympics?
Yes, I believe so. There was a woman that competed at the Olympics. Now, I'm not the first Trinidad males gymnast. I'm not the pioneer. I'm following the footsteps with two of my huge inspirations of William Albert and Joe Fox. They were Trinidad gymnasts before me. I'm the only one at the moment, although that could change very recently. But I do have aspirations to be the first Trinidad Olympic gymnast. And with that comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of opportunity that I'd like to make the most out of. And in addition to just trying to get myself out on the international stage, I want to inspire a lot of gymnasts within the country itself to follow the same path.
I understand that you have laid down tracks for Trinidad and Tobago at the Pan Ams. What's that experience been like?
So the Pan Am Championships was my first time representing Trinidad and Tobago, and that was the perfect end to what I can say a perfect season. That was the first season of me coming back from Washington back to Ontario, my home province, and getting reintegrated with the Ontario system was actually really, really enjoyable. That whole year I could only speak highly of it. I was at my club of Manjack Gymnastics. We had an incredible team around me. Kelly Manjack, who was the owner, was an Olympic coach himself. And that environment was pretty much the perfect place for me to succeed. A year prior, I had aspirations of going to the Pan American Championships in Rio. However, an ankle injury, unfortunately timed ankle injury, deemed it not safe for me to go. So although it was very tough, I was not able to compete in Pan Am's 2022, which would have been my first time competing internationally, but it got pushed back a year. And looking back, I'm really glad it did, because it was not only my first time competing internationally, but a good friend of mine and a good teammates of mine also competing internationally from the same club. So we were able to take the same coach. We had a really good connection because we trained day to day. We knew our gymnastics in and out. We knew ourselves in and out. And that experience was just about taking it all in. We've been competing domestically in Ontario and Canada for pretty much our whole lives, with the exception of me going to Washington. But this was a whole different experience, meeting a huge variety of different people from all across Pan America. I can only speak highly of that time, and it was a pretty good showing too. I remember the feeling of successfully completing my floor routine, and at the moment of landing my dismount, all I could think was, okay, now I'm an international competitor. Like, it didn't all feel real until I landed my dismount on floor, and I'm like, okay, we got the job done. Now the ball's rolling. Let's just keep it rolling.
That's fantastic. And I'm glad you brought up the ankle injury, because I think every athlete would tell you that, especially at the highest level where you are at right now, that there is always something. There's always a challenge somewhere along the line, and maybe a barrier to break through. And that ankle injury, that, obviously you were preparing to be at those games, and you get stopped by this ankle injury. And how far did you have to dig down deep to sort of say, okay, I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to return?
Yeah, no, it was hard. It was definitely a big blow, because that was like that's what I've been looking forward to for a number of months leading up to it, was the opportunity to compete internationally. But at the end of the day, like, despite me wanting to be there and quote unquote pushing through, I knew that this wasn't the right choice. Long term, it would have benefited me more for me to take the step back, which I did. So although it was a hard decision, I really had to take like a step back from the moment I'm in and look at the big picture, which is not always easy. I'm still not the best at it, but with the help of myself and my team around me at the time, I was able to do that. And looking back now, I'm glad I did, because I was able to build up a lot more smoothly leading up to 2023 Pan American Championships. But it's hard. It's hard to take yourself out of an opportunity, even though it's the right choice. Sometimes a lot of emotions are still involved.
I don't know if this had to do with the ankle injury, but I did kind of read a quote that you had said, and I found it really, really interesting. It said on this board that I have had my share of struggles to achieve the successes I've had in my life, and throughout these struggles, I have learned the importance of hard work and the strength in the struggle. What does that mean to you?
Well, yeah, I think strength in the struggle could be like a motto of mine, because this sport is very hard at times, more times than it is good. And through these hard times, I think that builds a lot of resilience that you can take out of the gym, but a lot of resilience that you sometimes need to be competitive or to even compete at all. It's the opportunity to dig deep on the days that you don't want to train. That's when you learn, that's when your resilience strengthens, and that's where you actually become a real competitor. I feel like that's one of the many reasons I can separate the good from the great, is kind of doing the job because you need to do it. Putting your motivation aside and focus on the discipline aspect of what the sport brings you. Strength in the struggle builds that, and it just reinforces that mindset in an athlete.
The good here is that you've qualified for the upcoming Worlds in Indonesia, and I think that's in October. What's been that preparation like for you? I see you got a big smile on your face there for this.
Yeah, no, that hasn't even quite sunk in yet. That'll be one of the biggest comps I'll do in my career, and I'm very grateful and thankful that the showing at Pan American Championships this past year was able to get me a spot at Worlds. It's going to be, I'm just going to try and take the whole experience in. I'm in, like you said, I'm right in the preparation phase of it now. So looking to have some good showings with some routines leading up to this competition. And I'm going to have to really try and take a moment to just breathe and take it all in, because I don't think it's going to quite hit me for quite some time even after the event happens. So, because in the blink of an eye, it'll be over. And I know that if I don't enjoy it and really take every single aspect of this journey, then it'll be just too quick, because that's sometimes what happens when you get lost in the preparation. So to answer your question, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take in every aspect of this journey, the hard times, the good times, the struggles, the triumphs leading up to this huge event. And then when I'm there, just trust my training that I've done the best that I could beforehand to have a good showing here and enjoy my time in a new country, in a new continent, and meet a lot of gymnasts. Because one of the biggest things in men's gymnastics is the community. It's a niche sport, and people know a lot of different people from all over the world. So I'm looking to see if I can build that a little bit more in Indonesia.
It seems like mentorship is something that's very, very important, and we'll leave on this. What would you have in terms as a message for others?
Mentorship is huge. I think especially in sport, you can get lost sometimes in all the different opportunities, but mentorship is something that keeps you grounded. And something I can say to everybody listening is, I know it's cliche, but if you have a dream, if you have a goal, stick to it. Sometimes stick to your vision, stick to your dream, even if no one else can see it but you. If it's clear in your head, then show it. Sometimes it's not worth it to say all these goals you have. It's worth it to just prove it through the work and through the results that you'll get. Because even me, I've taken a somewhat non-traditional path to get where I am. Trinidad and Tobago is not a country that is normally represented in men's gymnastics, but I had this vision, I had this goal for myself. I knew what I wanted to do in the sport. I knew the type of person and leader that I wanted to aspire to be. And if you can have that in your head, if you have that thought, don't let it go, and find a team that will support you in doing that.
That's fabulous. Full disclosure, I don't know if you know this, but I don't even know if our Sportsline Podcast audience and listenership sort of know this, that my background is from Trinidad and Tobago, which I see what you're doing. I'm inspired by what you're doing. People don't know that Trinidad is 60 miles long and 40 miles wide. It's such a tiny little island, yet so much has happened. That's been great from Trinidad and Tobago. I'll give you a little history lesson, and maybe you might know it. Do you know who Hazley Crawford is?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with the name.
1976 Olympics in Montreal, first Trinidadian to win a gold medal. And I don't think there has been, I think Addo Bolton came close. And I hope that you are if that's the case, I hope you are the second man to one day win a gold medal for Trinidad and Tobago. Little TNT. Good luck to you, my friend.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much, and it's great to hear that you're also of Trinidad descent.
Actually, quick question. Favorite food?
Yeah. Favorite food. It's a tie between sushi and burgers.
Oh man, I thought you'd say like roti or shark and bake.
Oh, okay. Well, favorite Trinidadian food is easily doubles. Like that. If I can get my hands on a double, then yeah, like without question. Yeah, favorite Trinidadian food would be roti or doubles.
All right. Next time I have one, I'll be thinking of you. Thanks for joining us, partner.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Take care.
Well, that's your Sportsline Podcast for the day. And if you've just seen and heard, we certainly love talking sports. Gymnastics, men's gymnastics. Get excited, folks. It's so cool. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline Podcast, do want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. As I said off the top, if you have something to say, we appreciate your comments. For the outstanding people that make the Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.